Hi, this is a first grader's review of the streetcar named Desire. So here she gets up and opens the door, downstairs door. So Eunice tries to open the door for Blanche. So she gets up and opens the door for Stella's house. A light goes on behind the blind, turning it light blue. So now Eunice and Blanche, they are moving. They are entering into the Elysian field, right? Moving inside the house. So what it means is that light goes on behind the blind. So they were supposed to be outside of the Stella's house. So there was a light on the stage, supposed to be outside. Now they are moving into the house. So this light in the outside part, this part goes out. It dims out and turning it light blue. So it gradually turning it blue and eventually turns off, right? That's what this means. Turning it light blue and goes behind the blind. And Blanche slowly follows her into the downstairs flat. So Eunice go first, and Blanche slowly find Eunice into the downstairs flat, and the surrounding area dim out as interior is lighted. So now they are supposed to be inside Stella's house. So interior part, interior of this house is gets lighted. It becomes light on the stage, right? And the surrounding area, the outside of surrounding area, it dims out. It becomes dark. Becomes dark. It talk about light, okay? Because they are moving inside Stella's house. And two rooms can be seen. Inside Stella's home, there is two rooms. Okay, two rooms, and not too clearly defined. These two rooms are not clearly defined. And the one first entered is a kitchen. So the first one is kitchen and contains a folding bed to be used by Blanche. So there is a small folding bed. Later on, it will be used by Blanche, a small bed in the kitchen. And the room beyond this is a bedroom. So beyond the kitchen, there's a bedroom. Okay. Of this room is a narrow door to bathroom. So there is a narrow door connected to a bathroom in the main room. Okay. So Eunice says defensively, noticing Blanche's look. So it looks like Blanche looked really shocked and terrified by this poor, terrible environment of this Elysian field. So Eunice notices it and she says, it's sort of messed up right now. It's quite messed up and quite dirty now, but when it's clean, it's real sweet. When we do a cleaning on this room and this house become real sweet and good. Blanche says, is it? And Eunice says, uh-oh, I think so. And Eunice, yes, I think so. And so you're Stella's sister. So you're Stella's sister, asked Eunice, and Blanche answers, yes. And Blanche actually wants to get rid of her. Blanche is tired, exhausted. She wants to be alone and take a break. And she wishes that Eunice is out. And you cannot just say to get out for the first uh, person that you saw for the first time. So Blanche is being polite, says, thanks for letting me in. And Eunice says, por nada, as Mexican says, por nada. Por nada, I mean, you're welcome, right? You're welcome. So I guess Eunice is a Mexican, using a Mexican language. Stella spoke of you. Stella, your sister told me about you. Blanche says, yes. And Eunice says, I think she said you taught school. I think Stella told me that you are teaching at school. You're a teacher. And Blanche says, yes. And Eunice, and you're from Mississippi, huh? So now we're in New Orleans, right? And Eunice says, you, Blanche, you're from Mississippi, right? Blanche says, yes. And Eunice answers, she showed me a picture of your home place, a plantation. You know, Blanche has a huge house, huge plantation, right? And Blanche says, Belle Rive. Belle Rive is a name. Belle Rive is the name of our huge mansion, huge house. So Blanche says, Belle Rive? So my sister Stella showed a picture of Belle Rive. Eunice says, yes, a great big place with white columns, right? So Stella's house in the Mississippi is a huge house and it has white columns. The huge house has many white columns, right? White columns. And Blanche says, yes, you're right. My house is a huge white column. Eunice says, a place like that must be awful hard to keep up. So Eunice asks question, a big house like that will be really difficult to manage. And Blanche says, if you'll excuse me, I'm just about to drop. So Blanche says, if it is okay with you, I want to take a break. I want to take a rest. And Eunice doesn't understand what Blanche really wants to do. So Eunice just try to be kind, try to be nice to Blanche. And she says, sure, honey, why don't you sit down? Sure, honey, why don't you come here and sit down? And Blanche says, what I mean was I'd like to be left alone. And Blanche now finally have to say directly to Eunice that would you please leave? I want to be alone, left alone. And Eunice now finally understand what Blanche wants. So Eunice says, I'll make myself scarce. So I'll go away. I will go away. I'll go my home in that case. In that case means if you really want to be alone and if you want to take a break, I'll go away. I'll go my home. And Blanche says, I didn't mean to be rude, but she feels quite sorry to tell Eunice to get out, right? Basically. And she feels quite sorry. It's not polite to say someone to get out, right? And Eunice says, I'll drop by the bowling alley and hustle her up. Don't worry. I'll just go by. I'll check out the bowling alley and tell her that you are here, and I'll tell her to hustle up. I'll tell her to hurry up and come here. And she goes out the door, right? And Blanche sits in a chair very stiffly with her shoulders slightly hunched and her legs pressed close together and her hand tightly clutching her purse as if she were quite cold. So she sits on a chair, Blanche, in a quite stiffly. Her body is stiff. Her body is hard. She's tired, traveled a long distance, so her body feels quite hard and stiff. And her shoulder is hunched. Since she's tired, she is hunched. She leaned forward a little bit because she's tired. And her legs pressed close together. So she crossed her legs each other and she hold tight her clutching. So clutching is hold tight. She hold tight her purse as if she were quite cold and she is quite nervous, tired, and it is her first time here in Stella's house, so she is holding her purse tight. After a while, the blind look goes out of the eyes and she begins to look slowly around. So, she looks at blindly with no focus. She just looks around and looks around the kitchen of Stella. And because she's tired, suddenly a cat screeches. Screech means cries. Suddenly, cat cries and she catches her breath with a startled gestures. She is surprised. Blanche is really scared and surprised because she didn't expect a cat crying. She thought she was alone here, and suddenly cat goes off, so she is scared, startled. Suddenly, she notices something in a half-opened closet. So Blanche finds out the closet which is half open, and she finds something from closet. So she springs up and crosses to it. So she wakes up, no, she stands up, and she goes to a closet and removes a whiskey bottle. She finds a whiskey inside the closet, so she opens the whiskey bottle. She pours half tumbler of whiskey and tosses it down. So she pours half a glass of whiskey and she drinks it. Tosses it down means she drinks it, and she carefully replaces the bottle and washes out the tumbler at the sink. So she carefully closes the bottle and wash out the glass at the sink. Then she resumes her seat in front of a table and she sits on the table. And Blanche, she talked to herself. She tells herself, I've got to keep hold of myself. Means I have to control. I have to control myself. Meaning that she wants to drink some more. No, she is an alcoholic, right? And this is our first time in the Stella's house. So she is trying to stop, not drink too much. So she is saying, I have to control myself. And Stella comes quickly around the corner of the building and runs to the door of the downstairs flat. Finally, Stella arrives at the Elysian Fields and she's ran toward Blanche. She's so happy to see Blanche. And she calls out Blanche's name very happily. And Stella says, Blanche. For a moment, they stare at each other. They look at each other, right? For the moment, they look at each other. Blanche springs up, runs to her with a wild cry. So Blanche also shouts Stella's name and runs toward Stella, and they hug each other. Blanche says, Stella, oh Stella, Stella, Stella for star. And she begins to speak with a feverish vivacity as if she fears for either of them to stop and think. So she really extremely happily. She happily really speaks to Stella and she is afraid. Blanche is afraid for either of them to stop and think. She is afraid that either of us, Blanche and Stella, they suddenly think about themselves and they stop talking to each other and they were afraid. Blanche was afraid of doing so. She doesn't want to talk about past life, sad past life of Blanche and Stella. She just wants to be happy meeting Stella for now. So she really speaks extremely happily. They catch each other in spasmodic embrace. So embrace means hug. They hug each other extremely happy. So this means same thing, extremely happily. Okay? And I'll stop here for now and I'll continue recording later. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for watching.